Welcome to Hitbullseye.com. My name is Hirdesh Madan and I will be discussing CAT 2016 analysis with you. In my 19 years of experience, I have seen many CAT papers. So the good news is that if you look at last 2-3 years exams, so CAT is finally moving towards standardization. So that's really a good news for all CAT aspirants. The paper was conducted in 2 different time slots, morning and evening. This time there was more security, so those who did not read instructions properly had to remove shoes. In fact, let us see few key highlights of CAT 2016 exam. So the first thing to be noticed is that the paper was almost similar to CAT 2015. When I say this, in terms of composition, in terms of level of difficulty, everything was similar to the CAT 2015, so there was no shock. I'll say people were very comfortable with the pattern. They have seen this kind of a pattern before. I know always people have butterflies in the stomach, and all those who take this paper on the final day as special day, definitely they invite trouble. DI and LR was the toughest section. In fact, last year also it was the same, and this year also it was the toughest section. I'll say there were a lot of booby traps. In fact, if you end up picking 2 difficult blocks, you would have wasted a lot of time and there would have actually be over for you in this section. So very tricky section. If you see the third highlight, there were no new question types as whether it was a verbal section. Yes, in math there was slight change in the composition, but overall, especially in verbal, in terms of format, there were hardly any new questions. One good different thing is non-MCQ or theta questions. In fact, let me tell you, a lot of people have been attempting theta questions because it does not invite negative marking. But always I have been telling students that you do not play to lose, but you play to win. So good that there were lesser non-MC questions in this exam, which would have definitely improved accuracy for the students. But let me tell you, QA section was the most scoring section in this exam. In fact, this was the make or break section, because if you score very high in QA section, it will jump your overall percentile like anything. And last year we had one student who scored 99.9 4 percentile overall and had scored 100 percentile in Quant, and he even missed less than 80 percentile in verbal. So one good section, very high score, will jack up your overall percentile. So Quant was the section which would have hiked your overall percentile. If we analyze the morning slot, so there were 3 sections of 1 hour each. So I'll say this paper is not a 3-hour paper. There are 3 different papers of 1 hour each. The verbal and RC section. Always, verbal seems easy, but eventually when the scores are there, people mess up with their accuracies. And all those people who were good in verbal were able to attempt 24 to 28 in this section. As I said earlier, DI and LR was the most difficult section. People who could do some good selection could solve 14 to 18 questions. I'm saying that is the good range I am speaking. Quant, as I told you, the most scoring section, where people would have attempted 22 to 26. Yes, slightly difficult than the last year's quantitative ability, but overall, if you put all things together, a score of 155 plus definitely will produce multiple calls for you in this slot. Now if we go to the second slot, the second slot was almost similar to the first slot. Slightly difficult, that's what people said. I'm saying when we talked to students, they had slightly 3 or 4 lesser attempts in this section, but I don't see a great normalization happening, because the level of difficulty and composition was almost same. And here also, if you see, almost the scope, same range of attempts, and overall again 155 score will produce multiple IM calls. Now I'll request the subject experts to discuss one by one all the 3 sections and in depth related to the CAT 2016. 16. And I'll be back with the overall analysis and the colleges.
Hi, I'm Rajiv and let us analyze verbal section of CAT 2016. If we compare this year's verbal section with last year's section, then more or less it was similar, be it format, be it level of difficulty or distribution of questions. The only difference was that last year we had RCs and non-RCs areas separate, but this time let's say they were mixed together, means after one or two RCs we saw one or two summary questions or parajumble questions. So this was the only change. Otherwise, level of difficulty or the overall section, feel of the section was easy to moderate, more or less easy. Now let us have an overview of this section. Overview of verbal slot number 1 and 2. Section had total 34 questions, 24 RC and 10 non-RC typeable questions. In both the slots, the distribution was same. There were 5 RCs comprising 24 questions. 3 RCs had 6 questions each and 2 RCs had 3 questions each. If we talk about the content or the subject in RCs or the level of difficulty or from understanding point of view, the RCs were easy to understand. The subject was easy. No doubt questions were 1 or 2 questions per RCs were tricky. Now if you look at the subject presented in RCs in slot 1, there were 5 RCs. So first, schooling. It is about schooling. Nowadays is not focusing on learning, instead they are focusing on finishing syllabus or just passing on information. Second was based on homemakers' rights or value we give to these people. Third was on language modification, and the content was based on what word will speak in 2115. Third, it was about Bhutan's environment, natural ecological environment, very easy. And last was it belonging, solidarity and division. It was about how people are converted into criminal mentality, etc. So out of these 5 passages, only wages for housework and the last one was easy to moderate, rest were quite easy. In slot 2 also, afternoon, the 5 RCs, the subjects were first corruption cleanup from economist, picked up from the economist. Second was based on origin of Durand line, that is border between India and Afghanistan. Third, creating positive work environment from New Yorker Times. Third, encyclopedic museum, who owns the antiquity. And fifth was based on creating value in competitions. Again, all the RCs were simple, easy to understand. No doubt questions again were tricky. Only 2 were easy to moderate, probably 3, first, third and last one. But most of the students told us that VA section was overall easy. Now as far as strategy for this was concerned, or probably next year would be, so few of the passages were lengthy and few were short, like 6 question passage was lengthy and 3 questions passage was short. So it is very important to select the passage as per your strength and weakness. It should not be that you go by passage. It is whatever comes across and you find that comfortable, you try and solve the questions. When it comes to number of questions, out of 24, one could have easily attempted 70 to 80% of the questions with probably 70% at the max accuracy. Because in verbal, most of us think that we have attempted all the questions correctly, but it is tricky to have, it is challenging to cross 70 or 80% accuracy at times. Now if we talk about non-RC section, means I'm talking about parajumble questions, misfit question and summary based questions. So distribution both the slot was again similar. There were 3 summary based questions, 3 misfit and 4 parajumbles. If we talk about parajumbles, likewise last year, this year also they were very tricky, and it is advisable next time also that you have to have firm conviction about your answer, otherwise do not waste too much time on parajumbles. If I compare these 3 types, I think that summary based question and finding misfit were can be attempted, and out of these three, summary questions were easy this time also, and we hope that if format remains the same will happen next year also. Overall, these 10 questions were moderate to tough. This year also there were no grammar questions, fill in the blanks, or any other area from verbal section. So if we look at this section from test taker point of view, one can score well if one's ability of understanding this language is good. So overall the section was based on understanding alone, no tricks. And if we talk about the percentile wise in quantified term, the range of 22 to 28 correct questions would ensure 99 plus percentile this time, and 14 to 18 correct questions this time will ensure 90 plus percentile. So it is very important to manage your time efficiently in order to clear cutoff, because if you pick up parajumble and you start enjoying parajumble questions, then it would be very difficult for any test taker to clear the even cutoff. So non-MCQ questions should be handled carefully and should develop good reading skills in order to ensure better percentile next time. Thank you.
Hello friends, my name is Harinder. I have been training the students in the field of mathematics, data interpretation and reasoning for the last 20 years. Let's have the analysis of CAT 2016 with special reference to the section DI and LR. Right, so let's go to the analysis part. So first of all, let's have an overview of the slot 1 there, students. As you all shall be knowing, in terms of data interpretation in slot 1, there were 4 different sets given. One was a set based on gadgets purchased, which was of moderate difficulty level as disclosed by the students. Then there was a calculation based set with percentage of males and female test takers. You can put that into the moderate to difficult category. Then there was a reasoning based set which defined gender as well as their eating habits in terms of vegetarian and non-vegetarian, which was of difficult level. And then it was a calculation based set involving ratios and percentages of movies in different languages, which was from moderate to difficult level. Now let's see the logical reasoning part. In logical reasoning section part also there were 4 sections. There were 4 sets, sorry. One set was based on group conditionality having train fares and the travel times, etc., which was of difficult level. And then was a matrix arrangement involving persons and their t-shirts, and this was of moderate difficulty level, students. And then there was a puzzle on derangement of documents and folders, which was again of moderate level. And there was a 4th set which was basically a puzzle based on test papers with 2 sections and marking scheme, and there was a marking scheme in terms of correct answers, incorrect answers, and there was partial correct answers also. There was a 3rd marking scheme given. So this was of a difficulty level which was of quite higher. Now students, if we see in totality the data section, DI/LR section of slot 1, we can say if the students have attempted around 14 to 18 questions with 70 to 80% accuracy, they are supposed to get a percentile which will be a little more or closer to 99 percentile. And similarly with 9 to 12 questions attempted and 70 to 75% accuracy, they are supposed to get close to 90 percentile, which is 90. Right, students? Now let's go and see the evening slot. In the evening slot in the data interpretation sector, quietly balanced as like the first slot, there were 4 sets. There was one set which was involved on Venn diagram on specialization and average salary. There were 3 different specializations given: finance, marketing and strategy, as reported by the students, and this was of moderate difficulty level. Then there was a calculation based set which was involving the model on probability of default payments made in the banks by the loan takers. It was of difficulty level, as there were some additional information given in each of the questions. Then there was a 3rd set which was logical set on opinion of experts on features of products given. It was involving 2-3 tables as suggested by the students, and it was of difficulty level higher. And then it was based on salaries of 3 types of employees, some technical, non-technical, and it was again a moderate level of question set. Now moving on to the LR section, students. Now there was one set based on puzzles On room allotment for overlapping sessions, there were 3 or 4 different overlapping sessions for each of the rooms, and you need to calculate the minimum room requirement and all that. It was of difficult level. And then it was logical puzzle based on sequential output and coding principles. Now here the knowledge of HOT, that is the position of the different alphabets, could have helped you. It was of moderate difficulty level. Then there was a puzzle based on number of properties having water supply for different days of the month. It was of difficult level. And then it was a matrix arrangement, students, which involved rating of restaurants on different parameters, and even this was a difficult set. Students, as you could have seen, LR and DI was the most difficult section of this paper. I'll specifically say the students who would have solved certain blocks, as we covered in Bullseye, some data supplement sets could have been of great help to the students, and they could have definitely performed better in this case, students. In terms of cutoff for this, if the students have attempted 14 to 17 questions with 70 to 80% accuracy, they will be close to getting 99 percentile, students, and with 9 to 12 questions attempted and 70 to 75% accuracy, you can get close to 90 percentile. Right, students? So after that, you will go through the analysis on the quant section. Thank you so much, students.
Hello students, I am KJS Khurana. Let us analyze CAT 2016 quant section. Student, CAT 2016 quant was more or less similar to last year quant paper, with the only difference is number of theta questions. These were 7 this year, whereas these were 14 last year. Let us take an overview of the slot 1. As you can see from the composition of topics, this year CAT quant was dominated by arithmetic and geometry questions. In arithmetic, almost all conventional topics were covered, like average, SICI, time and work, percentage, profit and loss, allegation, etc. These were moderate in difficulty level. Average question was very simple, wherever mixture question was also simple. Rest were easy to moderate in nature. In geometry, there were 2-3 sitters. Rest were easy to moderate. In permutation combination, one question was there in morning slot that was tricky. Logarithm question was moderate. Algebra question on sequence and series were there. Questions on APGP was there. Question on linear equations were there. One question of maximum was also there. In number system, basic knowledge of numbers were required. You had to know prime numbers, square of number, and all this basic stuff. So more or less you can say the difficulty level of morning slot was moderate in nature. And now in attempt section, students who have attempted 22 to 26 questions with an average accuracy of 75 to 80% can expect 99 percentile plus. And students who have attempted 13 to 16 can, with the accuracy of 80 to 85%, can expect 90 plus percentile. So let us take an overview of the evening slot. Evening slot was more or less similar to morning slot. Again dominated by arithmetic and geometry questions. In arithmetic question, again average question was very simple, allegation question was simple, mixture question was simple, question of ratio was a bit tricky, and rest of the question on arithmetic were easy to moderate. In geometry, as same in the morning, there were 2-3 sitters, but evening slot geometry was bit difficult than in the morning slot. A few of the advanced concepts are required to solve a few questions, like student found the mass concept geometry very important in solving evening slot. Student found the geometry workshop conducted by us in Super 100 lecture very useful in solving geometry questions. Questions on algebra were moderate in nature. One question of function was very simple, in which just value putting was there. Question on numbers required basic knowledge of numbers and squares, cubes, etc. Permutation combination questions. Permutation combination, the question of filling the colors was very tricky. Other question of arrangement of alphabet was simple. Logarithm question was moderate in nature. More or less the difficulty level of the second slot was also moderate in nature. Now in attempt, this is more or less similar to morning slot, around 22 to 26 attempt with average accuracy 75 to 80 can expect 99 plus percentile, and 13 to 16 80 to 85% with an accuracy of 80 to 85% can expect 90 plus percentile. Student, this was about morning and evening slot of CAT Quant 2016. One thing is to be important, that selection of question was very important, because there were plug and play, there were usage of option, and few questions were very lengthy. So selection of question was important in order to score high percentile in CAT Quant. Thank you. All the best.
Welcome back. So you have gone through all the analysis of 3 different sections by our subject experts, and what I would like to discuss with you is the overall, at what percentile, which score you will get. So we have put analysis on hitbullseye.com, and if we look at the analysis, so I think the most interesting figure which all of you are looking forward is a 99 percentile magic figure. Overall attempt of 67 to 72 will fetch you close to 99 percentile, which will convert to a score of maybe around 155 plus. The second important figure is 90 percentile, because most of the next rank colleges you may expect call at 90 percentile plus. So overall attempt of 44 to 52 and a score of close to 122 plus would have fetched you 90 plus percentile. And if you see the evening slot, the numbers are almost same as of the first slot, which is the morning slot. If we talk about the B school cutoffs, well, the 99 percentile plus figure with good academic background will fetch you multiple IIM calls, not only from the new IIMs but also from the old IIMs. A score of 98 percentile you may expect call from the IIT Delhi and MDI PGP. Well, above 90 percentile you expect a call from all the next rank colleges, which is IMI, MICA, IMT, TAPME, 4. So all these colleges, the cutoffs always move from 90 to 94 percentile range. That's what we have seen in the past. So this is not time to sit on your laurels, because you have more papers which are coming in. This next paper is SNAP, then you have ZAT, and my suggestion is whether don't carry the hangover of maybe good or bad performance of CAT to the other exams. Start studying thoroughly for these exams, as reasoning and GK is a very important section. And in fact, if you are not taking any exams, my suggestion is start working on your group discussion and interview, because building content takes a lot of time and you have to start reading a lot. Especially essay writing is very tricky. So all the best for the next exams, and as for the next round, which is group discussion and interview round, we have on our portal exclusive prep hubs for all the papers like ZAT, SNAP, as well as we have a full-fledged complete website devoted for the group discussion and interview preparation, which is gdpi.hitbullseye.com. Happy learning.